Hey everybody, and welcome to the live stream. And it's an exciting one this evening. We're talking about my new workshop. It actually started work on it a year ago, the building work, and I was tidying out before that across the whole of last summer. So this is over a year in the making, this live stream, but we'll get to that in a minute. First up, hi to everybody in chat. Hey. It's great to see so many people, and obviously workshops is an exciting topic for you, but we're also back in September. I would say the weather's making everyone go back to kind of modelling generally at this time of year, but no, it isn't. It's really hot and sunny and it's just too hot. So I suspect people are hiding indoors perhaps rather than being driven indoors, though it has rained today. And workshops, we all have them, we all need them, we all need somewhere to work. So this is going to be fun to talk about what I have and see what you guys have to say in chat. So welcome to everybody in chat. First up, I do need to thank my moderators. I've got Timber and Norm on tonight. Digger had a family thing, but thank you to them both for the work they do, the ever vigilant work in keeping off all those adult chat bots, and any of you that get out of line, which frankly is really rare, but there we go. So, it's quite funny. I'm just going to put a couple of plugs up from things I've seen come up in chat whilst I was waiting. First up, it's the Barla Lake Model Railway Show this weekend, I think it is, isn't it, Tim? So, Port de Norwich, my last model railway, will be there if you want to go and see it in person. Tim Williams bought it off me. Well, actually, Barla Lake bought it off me, and it will be on display. But he's putting it on an outing for their model railway show this weekend. Not this weekend, yeah, or Sunday. Obviously, not this weekend. Next weekend, coming up. So for people I haven't said hello to in chat, like Sheila from cloudy, humid Southern California, which actually feels very like Britain at the moment, welcome, and Geese, and who else is on there? So there we go. So let's see, anybody else? People are very into exciting. Timber's going to be there as well, so go and say hello to Timber, the moderator, and he's going to have a Timber Surf badge on, so you'll be able to tell who he is. And Staging says it was 29 degrees C in my lounge today. Yep, probably on par for a course now. I'm in a t-shirt still, and it is 8 o'clock at night, unheard of in the UK. Well, for me anyway. And then Timber saying he went to Lee Model Railway Show and it was packed and meltingly hot. I would not want to have been at a railway show this weekend. No offence to some of the men there, but one or two of them are a little ripe. And in the heat. Tamlin says it hasn't rained here in London today, but it seemed a touch cooler thanks to the breeze. It was raining when I got up and it's rained on and off most of the day. So there we go. And then YouTube, hello, and greetings from him in the desert southwest in Arizona. I like Arizona, I've been there a few times. It's a very nice state. And dry heat at least, I guess, which is good. So it rained in North Wales coast. That would be normal for North Wales, I'd have thought. And Timbers put up the Barla Model Railway Show link there so you can find out all about it in the chat. So if you want to go visit, it's North Wales, and it'll be great fun. YouTube's watching for the kitchen while he prepares a Sunday stew. I refused to do something really hot over the stove earlier and said, hey, we're just having toast because it's easy. Shillelagh is how the Bog Irish say it. Shillelagh. Okay. Shillelagh. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, it's awful trying to pronounce everything. And it doesn't help. I've got new varifocals and nothing on a screen is ever in focus. I've blown it up so it's like big letters and everything is still just slightly out of focus. So there we go. Wow, everybody's giving us the temperature in their living rooms, which seems to be an average of about 29 by the look of it. And Tim's also saying it's not just Port de Norwich, it's Porth Penrhyn and his own Crowell Cumbach 2.0. And I will probably get told off by my mum for the way I pronounce it. She's Welsh. So Estray Trainwell says hi from Denmark. I didn't realise you were in Denmark. Lovely to have you on. And then we've got Sculloey fan. We all wish we had fans here. He's nothing compared to that semi-final of GMRC Series 2. That dino suit helped. Oh, yes, that was a brilliant suit though. That was so much fun. You did look amazing. How do I boot Kathy for being old modelerist? Was I old modelerist? I'm so sorry if I was. I'm old now. I'm over 50. I'm joining the old people. When I was young, over 50, it was like pension age. Tamsin didn't go to the Colours Wargaming show yesterday. Too hot to be on the tube and trains. Totally agree. I actually played my game. I was playing Star Wars Legion on Wednesday night, and we started just before 6 and we played outside, and it was a beautiful night until it went dark at about 20 to 9 at the end of round 2, and I was probably going to lose, but then we knew we were going to go out about halfway through the round because it was getting too dark and we couldn't be able to move it inside, so just ended up winning on kill points, which was so funny. Because anyway, moving on for all those people who don't understand what I just said. So a lot of people saying that it's been weird weather in the UK for September. Normally the kids go back and the weather goes nice, but it doesn't go like 31 degrees nice, just not the UK. It's rarely that in the height of summer. So it rained all summer and now the kids are back at school. Nice weather. So David says he's got his cat in. It is definitely cooler today. I have my windows all open earlier. I don't leave them open at night because I get bats, and I was sitting on the loo at 2 a.m. once, true story, and I saw a bat going past outside, and I was like, oh look, there's a bat flying past. There must be some insects there because it keeps going past. And then it buzzed me and I realised it was inside the bathroom, not outside. It took me an hour and a half to get it out because you open the windows and it won't go out, and I didn't have the lights on. Because I thought, oh, that'll make it... no, I couldn't get it to go out because none of the windows opened that wide. In the end, I turned the lights on and ended up throwing a towel over it when it was so exhausted it was just sat somewhere on one of the blinds. But it had gone around the whole house, downstairs, upstairs, everywhere by that point. So yeah, that's so I don't open them more than a crack. Right, Samuel Beckett asked, have I seen the news that the Port de Nougat Marine has gone into administration? I have seen that news, but I don't know the latest. There was a little marina there, obviously. Obviously not a dock anymore, but it's still on a sea-going channel out, so it's very useful. I don't know the latest though, I'm afraid. Hi Mark from Scale Mark. Walkabout Games. Kathy, I'm trying out your brick wall tutorial on my wife's cricket cricut today. Wish me luck. Good luck. It was quite fun to do that. Let's see how it goes. You whippersnapper compared to whippersnapper compared to some of you Silver Surfers. Yeah, well, that's what hair dye's for. Anyway, where did you get my picture frames from? There are so many picture frames there, I really couldn't say. If I look behind me, I've got them all over the place over the decades that these are put together. Some of them just Amazon, some of them will be, a lot will be Hobbycraft if they're the big, thick, black, plain ones. Box frames are normally Hobbycraft. Buy a lot of Hobbycraft frames because they go to 50% off quite regularly when I go in and buy a ton. And then I use them for diorama bases. Some of them are special, but because that wall's black, it's not that exciting. But over here is black and silver. I've got mirrored ones upstairs. So yeah, all over the place, I'm afraid. So YouTube says it, and he's in Arizona. It's high noon and 39 on the way to 41 by evening. Nice. You were Arizona, weren't you? Oh, blimey, I'm forgetting already. Oh well, let's go back down to the bottom. And then timber, saw lots of golden trees today. Autumn definitely happening. I've got some little bushes in the back that have already gone red, which is what they do in the autumn. So not good. So Tim says, all my windows are open, no bats here, but a lot of noisy foxes. Fortunately not the flying type. So I have a confession. I once had 3 baby fox cubs drown in my pond. The fountain had broken. I think it's full of weed. And it's like water lilies and proper weed. It's not like gross weed. You've seen photos of it when I'm doing stuff. And they'd fallen in and I hadn't heard them and they hadn't obviously got out. And they were quite small. And I didn't notice for a week till they floated back up to the surface. And I got my mum and her other 70-something-year-old friend to come and deal with them and put them in the builder's skip, etc. There was a 4th fox cub that didn't drown. And it came and sat under my bedroom window. And the windows are always on a crack. And it screamed every night for its 3 baby siblings that were dead. And I felt bad enough anyway. It's taken me years to talk about this without trauma. I felt bad enough I'd killed 3, but then to be screamed at every night and remanded for like hours. I'm over noisy foxes. Thankfully, it's grown up and moved, so I don't get that anymore. Timber says the range do a good line in black picture frames. Oh, I do use them for diorama bases. Norm says weather report from SoCal, 26 degrees and drizzling. Weird. Well, 26 degrees and raining earlier is what I had, and I thought it was weird too. Hi to Jim from Iowa. Andy, hi Andy. A bit late, it's all right, I'm still on the waffle. We'll get to the workshop in about 2 minutes. And then Timber, being British, says 58 in the house and only 22 likes. Oh, I thought you were saying it's 58 degrees in your house and you're doing Fahrenheit. I was going to say that seems quite cold. Okay. Right, so yeah, I have to remind you to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, all those kind of useful things, apparently. So Andy's in Somerset. Timber thinks something's awful. I don't know whether it's Andy being in Somerset or if it's raining in South, I don't know, whatever it is, but it might be the likes. So before you upset Timber, go hit them all. Bill, good evening, Kathy. I've missed the last couple of live streams, unfortunately. Well, these live streams weren't what they were meant to be this year. I had this plan to do Thunderbirds, and it's still on the plan, but then I just ran out of time with all the Kickstarters, and I'm always seem to be behind on that. So instead, I've been doing these ones instead. And the next one, I'm thinking of doing display rooms, because I may have tidied my display. How do you display stuff to the best effect? Stop dust. And we can talk about dust on model railways and permanent displays that you can't just put away as well. I have some real thoughts about how you display things, so it may well be that. GR Railway says, ordered Barla's Holy War the other day. Hopefully will come Monday or Tuesday. For those that don't know, Holy War is a quarry Hunslet. It was called Holy War. It's a quarry Hunslet from Dinorwic. It's beautiful. I love the Dinorwic quarry Hunslets. Anyway, Barla Lake had a run of Holy War because they actually have Holy War there, and you can get the little one and see the big one. So hi to New Junction. And then thunderstorms in Weston-super-Mare this morning. Well, we will have rain, but no thunderstorms. Right. Timber thinks the fox is drowning and screaming is awful. That actually makes a lot of sense now. It's hard to tell because the chat and me talking are quite a long way adrift. So I say something and then I come back to chat and I'm just like, oh yeah, that wasn't the same timing. But what can I say? It has been. It's been quite traumatic, let's just say. Foxes. I got the fountain fixed eventually, which helped, but it needed rewiring, which is what was taking me the time. But before we lose anybody as I waffle on, I'm going to put on in the background, so I shrink, my building works. This is about the first half hour of the video, is building works. And there is loads of stuff, but this is my old setup. I have done a video on ripping out the layout, so I'm either going to presume you've watched it or you can go watch it later if you wanted. Port Dinorwic version 2 in my kitchen, but this is my old work setup, my old display setup. I basically was in the kitchen and I'd never cooked in there. I'd go around to my mum's because it just never felt particularly safe with the kind of things that I'd be dealing with. And what happened about last July, August time, they were supposed to start September, I ripped out my railway, did a video on it, all of the boxes that were in the eaves, all of the railway had boxes underneath. I had boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. I had paint storage. I had every single room in the house. Probably had a little bit of railway in it. And I had to take it all out and that's my recycling pile going out of all the boxes. I kept my boxes. My dad said, keep your boxes. So I had boxes for stuff I haven't had for 20 years. I'd even moved house with some of the boxes, I think. And so I had boxes of boxes to go. And, this is all my old storage. So much of this stuff just sat around my house. And I had too much stuff. And even though I have a beautiful workshop, and you've seen the photos in the thumbnail, I didn't have enough room in my beautiful workshop for everything. I've got rid of 70 crates of model railway stuff. I'm not kidding. 70 crates. I had views around my house of just boxes all the time. This was actually just at the start of the process. It got more and more full. Every room got more and more full. And then the builders started and said, oh, we need to put a lintel through the small bedroom. I was like, okay. So I had to take all the boxes out of there. And then they came in, they said, we need to put a concrete pad in the front bedroom. I'm like, okay. So I moved 50 crates out of there and put them in my bedroom. They came back at the end of the weekend and went, oh, we need to put a concrete pad in Europe. You're going to have to move them again. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that on Friday when I said I'd move them all? So I literally have moved 50 crates around the house about 5 or 6 times. The architect said to me, a loft extension is no bother. They just go up the stairs and work up top. It is probably one of the most disruptive extensions you can possibly have. But you saw my kitchen. I have a 3-bed semi. I have a dining room with my computer and video recording equipment. I have a lounge that I actually try and keep as a lounge. This is a rather revolutionary thought, but as a lounge. My Xbox is still at Mum's. She quite enjoys watching me playing the game, so I've not been in a rush to bring it back. And I go around there most nights to see her. So that was fine. It's just like, oh, yeah. So I spent this afternoon at Mum's playing Starfield. For those of you who are into Starfield, I'm enjoying it. So yeah. And it started with a skip. I had to get the bush out at 7:30 in the morning because the skip man arrived before the builders. And I had to dig a bush out that was where all the skips were going. Yeah, I wasn't that impressed at that. The builders told them to come mid-morning, but you know, they turned up early. And the bush eventually died anyway. Typical. I did hack a lot of roots off. It's tarmacked under that gravel, so very hard. So anyway, the point of all this blathering is the building work was very, very traumatic. And I'm sharing my pain with you today about how traumatic it is to have all of this stuff that you just can't fit in your house. And I had looked at my house and I'd always said eventually I'd do the extension that's really common around here. And you can see the houses opposite in some of these pictures. You go up into the roof and you normally go up with a dormer on the side above your existing stairs. But in mine, I've gone up over the existing stairs and made a gable end. So there's a gable end. It looks like it's always been there. It's the old tiles on the front still. And then there's a dormer at the back. And it's a massive dormer. Goes across the whole of the back. So I've ended up with a beautiful room. But still, here we go. Building works. Timber's like, I do not think Cornwall is awful. Never been there. I think Cornwall's lovely. Oh, it's only 27.3 in the hobby room tonight at Andy's. Did someone say waffles? I wish. Andy, leave it out. I'm 71, just saying. Well, you know, it's a good age. No, I probably should have blanked there. Don't look at their number plates. I was looking, I can see 2 lots of video going. I should look at the one that's actually in sync with my voice, not the one that you're seeing at the time that I'm talking. So I had great builders. I can't fault the builders. They did an amazing job. Really nice guys, you know, really, really great builders. When you talk to all the contractors that they get in to do specialist jobs, they all say they're amongst the best builders in the whole of the area I'm in. So that's really good. And they may look like they drink a lot of tea, but the first thing they had to do was rip the old layout benchwork out, which was really solid, and rip out this kind of room that had been jury-rigged into there. And then, yeah, get up scaffolding. And they did it all through the hatch to start with. It was a lot of stuff to go. I kept a lot of foam. I ended up binning a lot of foam and just skipping it because I had so much foam. And it's all in a mess still. I tied it all beautifully, and then they went and did building work in the little void, which is, you know, at the front of the house. It's where everything gets done. But what can I say? It's quite emotional watching something you've spent a lot of time doing coming out, but it's also quite cathartic. And I actually was very glad that the railway I'd stalled on had moved so I could move on, and I was really ready by this point to move on to something new. So 70 crates is a lot. Some of the crates were like bits of greenery that had come off the layout. Some of them was kits, a lot of kits, a lot of craftsman kits. Yeah, and that wasn't actually counting all myself with the Modelerist kits and stuff like that went. I got rid of it. I just had a clean slate in the end. I got rid of almost everything. Shrek PMC, I noticed this lady's very talented. Oh, thank you. Was that an SM32 then? Yeah, I had some. I never did it, and I thought, oh, yeah, now is probably not the time I'm going to start building a brass loco kit. And yes, Lee, Starfield, I'm really enjoying it. I'm on my second ship. I found a sloop. It's very exciting. It's a bit more nimble. I'm actually able to kill things now when I fight. I haven't lost the last 2 battles. And I'm really excited. I might build an outpost soon. I'm trying to join the Free Start Collective Rangers at the moment. Your son's playing it, Shrek PMC. Yeah, I'm glad he likes it. I've not played a Bethesda game, and everyone says they're really buggy, and I'm like, no, I've had no problems. It crashed on me this evening, but you know, all games crash. And I autosave a lot now as a result. Ravenson says they brought you a container that was already weathered. Oh, I know, and I probably took photos of it, of the weathering, because that's the kind of person I am. Norm says any and all remodelling is a big upheaval, annoying. It is. But what was worse really was I'd put plastic sheeting over some dioramas and left them in one of the rooms, and they all got a bit damaged. Either the plastic sheeting broke things or moved things, or when I eventually did take them around to Mum's, just to take them somewhere, they went in her conservatory when it got a bit cooler in the year, they got damaged in the move. I mean, one of Mum's friends helped me, and I had a tree on the edge of the Halo diorama, and I saw her bending it. I said, oh, watch that. She snapped it. She said, oh, it's all right. No, she bent it. She said, I'm like, oh, no, leave. Snapped. I was like, oh, it's fine. It's super glued back, but I could see it going. And every now and then you'll see something else go in the skip as I ran out of space. Timber says, I bet the neighbours loved you. So let me explain. Lockdown, everybody in my neighbours had work done. Next door to me, that side, which isn't, this is my attached wall, because I'm a semi, that side, 2 years of building works as they completely remodelled the house, just to build her in. Lovely guy, in through the whole lockdown. I chatted to him, he was a great neighbour for 2 years. Every day I chat to him, you know, he was there working. This side, they were the people I got the builders from, the recommendation, because they had a kitchen extension. So they'd already used these builders and had a kitchen extension, which to be fair only took 12 weeks. This took a lot longer, but is on the adjoining wall. They had some problems because when you're putting steels in and you're drilling steels and they're going into that wall, which is a party wall, it is noisy. And he was teaching online. It wasn't locked down by this point, but he was teaching online. And it was very noisy for him. So, yeah, I do feel really bad. And they're lovely neighbours. But, you know, now the people the other side there have had a massive extension. The people over that side, on my mum's road, she's about the only one that hasn't had an extension in a block of 5. And her neighbours, her other half of her semi's about to kick off. On this side, they're all just having work up here as well. It's like a never-ending going all the time here. And if they're not actually doing building work, someone's mowing a lawn. So if you ever hear it in the back of my videos on the voiceovers, I've just given up trying to wait for peace and quiet now, because you just can't get it. I mean, I did have to wait for next door because he was so loud when he was drilling next to me, but it is really hard. It's just one of those things. But yeah. Scullery fan, so glad my workshop has a heater and AC built in, but I have a large shed in the back garden. So we don't do AC in the UK, so I don't have air conditioning in mine. But my upstairs room over this hot weather has been no hotter than most other rooms in my house. So it isn't that bad. And if I open the front and the back windows, even though it's a loft, it will shoot through. But in my old loft, and one reason I needed an extension rather than just putting stuff into here, it was getting up to 38 in there because there was no insulation between the old tiles and that tar paper and then inside. Really, it was 50 mil, but 50 mil doesn't do very much. Well, I think I've got 150 or 180 mil now on this new extension because they added an extra 30 mil on to the requirements just as they did it. I had to get the neighbours to move the car for this, because they were in the way. So anyway, why haven't you built it in removable segments? That looks like a nightmare. I did this in 01, 02, 03. When did I move? I moved into this house in 04 and it went up shortly afterwards. So it was pre-removable segments being a thing. You know, they just weren't the thing at the time. So I wouldn't do it this way now. And it's one reason to get rid of it. I just wouldn't build a layout that way now. And that Bill says, this is why I do all my own work in my own time. So this building work started at the beginning of October last year and finished about March, April this year with all the carpets and stuff going in. And it's taken me that long until this week, in fact, Friday, to tidy out and sort out the workroom with all the stuff, and I've still got the middle of the house boxes and boxes still to sort. So if I were doing it, it would never get done, is the short answer, because I just work at everything else first. Mark, looks like it was well built in the first place. It was rock solid. Norm's going to use those noises for my ringtone. Sounds like there's a contest going on who can get the best extension. Oh, it really is. But also, it's partly about the age of an estate. So these houses are all built in 59. And I bought mine from the old lady when she died. But my neighbour's house came up because they died. This one, they moved in when the old lady died. And what you're finding is the old ladies and so on that bought them are all just slowly dying off. And you've got new people moving into houses that haven't been extended or had anything done to them. And this is like, someone called it the Golden Triangle. It's a great place to be because it's 5 minutes into the village, 5 minutes to the school, you're next to the park. It's a very handy location. So a lot of people want to live in the area, but they want slightly bigger houses than a 3-bed semi. So they will now just basically move in and extend. And it's cheaper to extend than move. Graham says, my man cave is nearly finished to start model building again. Yeah, my problem was I had to start the model building because it's my job before I tidied, and then I just didn't get time to do both. So Samuel, question, when you had the builders in, was there any emotional turmoil seeing them ripping out legacy model space, or were you happy to see it all go? By the time they ripped it out, I was incredibly happy to see it go. I'd already finished Port de Nord, you can see it done here, and there were things I was upset at, like this Jurassic Park diorama, you can see it now, that actually broke. The surround to it broke when I was trying to move it out on my own. It didn't fit through a door with the bookcase there, it had to turn sideways, and yeah. So it ended up in pieces, and actually the T-Rex fell off the shelf the other day and smashed too. The Master Chief lived in the bath. That was a bit freaky sometimes. When it first put him in the bath, I was like, ugh. Every time I walked in there, there's a man in my bath. But anyway, the Master Chief lived in the hall for a bit, and then he moved to the bath. And my biggest thing was, by that point, I'd had enough. I'd kind of had enough of doing the railway. That's a great photo. So it was really, really cathartic to just get it all out. There was so much about it I didn't like anymore. I'd started it in 2009. That was like yonks ago for me. I would rather do a Port de Nord size one and just, that's it. You know, just do something that small and finish it than ever do anything that big again. I'd never recommend doing such large layouts to people, just never. So Norm says, wow, almost 6 months. So there's a bit of a story. They did it, and actually they cleared everything out, and before they got to where we are now, we had a 4-week hiatus because the architect missed the steel that goes down the side, that all this vent to the air. He missed that off the plans. And he thought it was a double brick wall that it was going onto. And also I had the room in the loft, so he couldn't see the wall. And actually it turns out it's a single brick wall because it goes into a void, not a double brick wall. So the wall there is double, but then as soon as it gets to the right of that window, it becomes a single brick wall, which isn't load bearing to put a double brick gable on. And the front bedroom that's under the slopey roof, that had a wooden lintel through it instead of, and they needed to put a steel. So I was missing something like a 2.5 metre steel, 4.8 metre steel or something massive to go down the whole side of the house. And it cost extra, and we had to wait for them to manufacture it and then get it delivered. So there we go. That was traumatic. Polite, sorry, I'm only with one eye on the chat right now because I'm working on a lot of little details for a birthday present for my dad. A very special police car in HO. Brilliant. Polite puts beautiful lights into things. Before I can get to the whole paint job, especially to my YT name, Polite, short for police lights. Yeah, he does great work. You should check him out. I think we did a link on a previous live stream to him. So yeah, so this is my hallway. My bedroom's across from this, and they put this plastic sheeting up. And then it was October by this point, and it was howling gales. And I went to the loo in the morning and I was like, why am I standing in a puddle? And it leaked through in a couple of places. So yeah, it was dripping through the bathroom light fitting. So I turned that off quickly and got loads of buckets out. And it was dripping through the hole down the side, which you know, as soon as the brickwork went on, they actually built the plastic into the brickwork so that it's well secured, and that's fine. But you know, as things go, it didn't do any damage. It was just water coming in, and I've got loads of new concrete pads that's going in to hold that massive big new steel. And a lot of steel in the house now, and it's a very well built house. In '59, they were still building good houses in the UK. '30s, you know, pre-war, sometimes a little bit rough. You know, 60s, 70s, you get onto the modern style, but '59, good solid house, and they really beat it apart, and it did well. So I love my house, I love it very much. So let me talk about why I had an extension, because I could talk for a long time about the extension, and I'm going to let it run in the background, and occasionally I might add something in. But why have an extension? So I was working on my kitchen worktop, which was granite, and I've only got one chip in it from when some super glue leaked over a mat and glued something to it, and I pulled it up without realising and pulled the top off the granite. So, you know, it was a yeah, that was a moment. But I've still got this beautiful granite worktop, almost immaculate after modelling on it all these years. And what I wanted was somewhere, I'm not making any money, or certainly not enough money to afford to go somewhere else. So it's got to be within my house. My garden has a slope at the back and is beautifully gardened, and I don't want it to go to a shed and rip out my garden. So that was like, no, I'm not putting an external thing out. And this is where I want to work. I'm spending all my time in my house now. I work downstairs on the computer. I am doing a lot of work in the house. So where could I go? And the only way, really, when you're in a semi with a side passage on one side and a semi on the other side, you either go forwards, you go backwards. I just said I don't want to go backwards because I've got a nice, you know, styled garden that starts at the patio, and it's all been landscaped. I designed it all, it's beautiful, I love it. The only other way is up, because you don't do down in the UK. There are no basements, we just don't have them really. So the only way was up. That's my steel, that's the big missing steel, and as a result I've got a proper staircase. Before I was going up and down on wooden steps, and I've run up and down those for years. But as I get older and I want to be able to carrying things up and down, it seemed important to me to have that space. Now, downstairs, I still have my Airbrush Booth and my 3D printers, and the 3D printers are in the front of the garage. If you look, you can see the peeling paint on it. The guy's supposed to come and painted it and hasn't. Yeah. And then sort of behind that there's a utility, and in that, if you've been on my Patreon, I've done various tools and my 3D print stuff, but in that I've got my little front section with 3D printers. I've got 4 FDM running generally 24/7, but I'm just getting to the end of my test printing for the lava campaign. I just need to paint it all now, and then I've got the sort of clean up area for them because there's a sink in the utility, and my Airbrush booth. And I really wanted to not put those into my workshop. So workshops, why not put everything in there? Well, some stuff's really fumey. I spray lacquers, and no matter how good your extraction is, they honk. The stuff you've sprayed stinks as it sits there and kind of off gases, and it all dries and sets and whatever. 5.7 long. You know, it all just gives off fumes for a long time. You have to vent externally, which I could have gotten to do, and actually I do vent externally. I have builder's bum but with knickers on, and I have, you know, external vents upstairs put in. I've got loads of open windows that I can open upstairs as well, but it's still a case of I tend to spray and then vacate the room that I've sprayed in. So what I didn't want to do was have my sort of, how can I put this? I didn't want to have them moved from where they are. So I made no provision in the workshop for an airbrush booth. It puts out a lot of dust. It puts out a lot of fumes. It also puts a lot of particulates. I was spraying today, and I now have an extra fan to the side of the airbrush booth, which is a really powerful one that came out the loft. And it's orange. I was spraying fluorescent orange. It doesn't seem to go through the booth there though. It just seems to come back out, and whatever it is, it never seems to vent particularly well. So, decision. I'm leaving all that downstairs. So I still have a utility and 3D print room downstairs. What I want to take upstairs is all the kitchen. Now my kitchen didn't have any storage in it. I had the pantry full. In the UK you used to have pantries, in the 50s houses especially. So I have a full height cupboard, which used to be external on one side, but obviously has got built into an extension over time. And it's there. Great. That was full of modelling stuff. But there was nowhere else really to put things. I had stuff in trolleys, but every kitchen cupboard is full of kitchen stuff. And it just ended up with everything else up in the loft. So when I'd taken it all out of the loft, I needed to find a home for it in the new workshop. And what I've done to sort of rationalise it in my head, stuff I work on, I use. So that's tools, materials, supplies, anything useful that you use, apart from spray paints, which do live in the pantry still in the trolley, because I spray outside with spray paints, and the airbrush paints live above the airbrush booth, and there's a little trolley in there of airbrush stuff and 3D print stuff all there. So the utility's all full of 3D print stuff really. But everything else that I use, including the scenery materials, I pulled 8 crates of greenery off my old layout, a lot of used bushes and trees, and I've got a couple of crates of those. We'll go through all that in a bit anyway. So I've got all of that. That went into the workshop. But what I've not put in there, unbuilt kits, of which I have a lot of Gundam kits. I also have a lot of sci-fi kits, military kits, just loads of stuff. I also have a growing amount of old 3D prints that I had used for my Kickstarter. So a lot of 3D prints just sat there, and I've got a few crates of those. And because I've got into Legion and Shatterpoint, I now have a lot of boxes of Legion and Shatterpoint. So all of that stuff isn't going into the loft because I'm not using it. So I had a very deliberate, and when I first started this, every crate that wasn't sort of, when it was first in the first bedroom and I had it all organised, every crate already had a location. I'd worked out the wall cabinets, where everything was going to go. But then the plans turned out to be wrong because of various things. He'd put rooms in and bits that just, he didn't measure it quite right, the architect. Anyway, long story short, I ended up with a different shaped room to the one that was in the plans. And I've got a bathroom out of one corner, which has been a godsend because my boiler, I'm getting a new boiler in the next week or so. My boiler's been on the blink, so when the water doesn't work, I can at least go upstairs to the new electric shower. Anyway, let's go look at chat. So that was why I did an extension and some of my reasoning about what was going to go into there. So Stating says, 1984 council maisonette here, the build quality is questionable. Yeah. Bought some flooring for the loft and discovered the joists were laid out to metric spacing. Nightmare. Yeah, nightmare. I'd already re-floored my loft. I hadn't relied on my joists. They're only like 3" and they're quite small. But I've got cracks in a lot of my upstairs stuff with the amount of work they did up there. I'm not surprised. And at the back there, there's a steel. You can see the chimney breast with the 2 chimneys come up from the floor below, and there's a steel going up, and then there's one across the top, and obviously one under the dormer and edges and stuff. Andy, I must spray with acrylics due to my tortoises that hibernate in the winter. Yeah, even then, I find they put out a lot of dust, just paint particulates, so I'd prefer not, this is the leak, I think, I'd prefer not to have just any spraying in a room I want to work in a lot. And I tend to wet sand to avoid dust. There are some things that are incredibly dusty, snow being one. Obviously I'm going to do snow up there, but it sets me off. So I'm trying to keep my house into a just kind of a more healthy place. I had a lot of headaches when I first started working at home full time. And I think it is that it isn't a very healthy house until I've cleaned through and tidied it. Whoa, hi John, it's 10:40 in Rhodes and he's found me live. Yes, enjoy your holidays. I hope Rosie's all right. Did they not have wildfires earlier? I hope you're enjoying it anyway. So Tamsin says, the house my flat is in was built at 6 flats in 1910. Oh, they're probably solid then as well. Is that Edwardian still in 1910? Yeah, anyway. Shillelagh. I've probably got that. Shillelagh. Yeah, I have to tear out a 12 by 17 layout in a spare room. The roof of that room is not great, and that is going to be all on me, so it's taking forever. Yeah. It's not fun, is it? Really, tearing stuff out. So Andy says, I use a downdraft spray booth ex-cooker extractor. I am using a cooker extractor as well in my upstairs, but not in the same place. So Shillelagh. Shillelagh. I love the view from your front yard, though. It looks quite nice, really. Yeah, it's I'm very lucky, I think, where I live. I'm only here because my parents moved here when I was 6, and I've just never really moved out. I thought this was about half an hour, but it's certainly a lot longer than I thought of this. I thought it was more on the other bit and less on this bit. But anyway, loads more construction. So whilst that's going, let me just talk a little bit more about some of the considerations I had when designing my workshop. Now for me, I already have a kitchen layout where I'm really happy with, and I have my hobby zone modulars, and I have my trolleys that I can move to get at the cupboards behind, or I can move back and forth to get into different sides of them. I love trolleys around me to the sides. You know, if I need a bigger area or I want to put a stand there, I can move them. It's it's really good. So I went with the same arrangement of trolleys, sort of sides, etc., etc. I also have a Hoover by my desk, so there had to be somewhere I could shove the Hoover. And I just wanted to make sure, though, that it was a really beautiful room. Having gone to all this hassle, I wanted it to look beautiful. So there's a thought for YouTubers. You see a lot of them, YouTubers, and I'm not a YouTuber really anymore. I'm more of a designer modeler. But you see YouTubers and they paint everything black. Black to control the lights. The only lights you can see are them. Their lighting. Everything else is black. And I've got to say, I just couldn't bring myself to even consider having a room that was completely black. Black, just all over. So I went the complete opposite extreme and went white. Everything is pristine white. You can see when it's dirty, downside. Certainly for the worktops, you can just bleach them. I've bleached them several times already. I'm actually using anti-mold spray because it's bleach mostly and it's there. And, you know, it's just... Yeah, white isn't very practical, but I just finished working on Granite forever, though actually Granite is quite robust. It is solid stone, and it has a gloss surface, so it's easy to get anything off. And I've got all sorts of stuff on it, even just a thumb. You can take off super glue and stuff like that if you try. So, you know, it's not the worst. But I went with white because I wanted beautiful. I felt that, you know, white would be clean. It would make me feel uplifted being there. But one of the other things I needed to do was to make sure, and you see why I didn't want to put a shed in my garden. That's my garden. I do love my garden. I do not want a shed in it. Though the bush on the left is actually in my neighbour's garden because I'm so far over. I'm sort of stood outside at this point. But what I really, really had to do was get the lighting gantry. In my kitchen, the lights were on light stands with boom poles across, or whatever you call them, and big bags at one end of weight holding a light in midair. Because I can't put fittings into my kitchen, I just wasn't willing to drill holes in it, and it's paid off not doing that. And effectively, if you see shots in this direction, this is looking from my mum's across to my house, so you can see the dormer going in here. It's a good shot of the back. And you know, I was just like, okay. So I said to the builders, and when they were at the joist stage, before they put up all the boarding, he measured everything. And we'd looked at the fittings I'd bought, which was solid metal. They weigh a ton. And he put in extra noggins so that the plates that screw in would go there. And they spent a lot of time sorting all that for me, so that I'd have something really solid in the roof this time. and everything's off there rather than the floor. Because before I had a light stand, a video tripod, a bit more of a light stand, a bit more of a light stand where I had backdrops hung off, and then another light stand, a light stand, a light stand, a camera. I just had so much stuff on the floor. And on this, I want to be able to hoover my floor. It's awful trying to hoover your floor in the kitchen at the moment. There's like fluff everywhere because there's so many tripod legs to get around. So one of the things with this was I desperately did want my my floor to be clear. I can move the trolleys out and just get in. And I hoovered it the other day. It took like 2 minutes. I mean, obviously I hoovered it more than once, but I hoovered it ready for the video for this, and it took like 2 minutes. Okay, so let's have a look where we got to. So Tamsin says, not sure when in 1910, later than May, would have been George V rather than Edward VII. Okay. My uncle lived in an Edwardian villa, and worth less than my house because it was in Wales. But beautiful, beautiful house. It's just me, Tom C. Beautiful home. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, and the house was built in the 1970s and the construction is horrible, very bad craftsmanship. It's the same here. 70s houses here aren't considered that good. I mean, there's still good builders, don't get me wrong, but there are some pretty rubbish builders in the 70s. And some of the estates in where I live are just like full 70s estates. If this doesn't make you seasick watching it, I'm really sorry. But they've just taken the ceiling off inside of my house. When you want your room black, why paint it? You can use curtains to make the room temporary black and remove the curtains when you need your room bright. Yeah, but I think for YouTubers, it's always painted. It's a thing, you know. That's the pond. Neil is right. That is the pond. For those of you who joined later, you'll have to watch the beginning to find out what happened in that pond, what death and destruction and trauma and screaming foxes happened in that pond. So David, really the sensible person would use 18% grey for studio walls unless the studio is huge. Yeah, white's easier to buy than 18% grey. I presume they sell 18% grey, but yeah. Norm, rumour has it the Loch Ness Monster popped its head in Kathy's pond one day. Yeah, but then the big heron that comes down came and nabbed it, so it's gone now, I'm afraid, forever. Maybe Nessie likes it to watch Kathy while doing the modelling. That is actually the one thing I miss. So before, I sat in the kitchen and I could look out through my French doors at the pond and the fountain and the garden. And now when I sit there, I can look out at the window, but it's much more distant. And that looks a very big hand. It's much more distant, and I can really just see the neighbours' trees and some of the houses up the hill. But I can't really see me. My house, I went away for a week and it went really cold, and they opened it to the exterior when I was away. And you can see that gable now compared to the slope it had previously. That's what they did with it. But I went away and my heating came on, and the inside of the house was like this, big holes to the outside, all the heat going up. And the heating was on 24/7 for like 4 days before I got home. And I was just like, you're kidding me. I've been heating the outside solidly for 4 days. But it got to 5 degrees in the day. So I would kick the heating on a bit to try and just keep some warmth in the rooms that were there. And actually the kitchen was still very warm because I was still working in the kitchen, and the dining room, because they were downstairs, and I just shut the door, and the doors make a big difference. But you can see the heat was set to 9 eventually, and it was getting cold over 9 and still sitting the heating off. Because it was so cold outside. Really? Extensions in the winter are fun. But it didn't rain very much, thankfully. So Tim says, I was house hunting on Saturday in Wales, some lovely old stone-built properties, tempted. Yeah. I mean, my uncle was in South Wales, so very different. Tempted. I guess they're getting expensive now as well. But who knows with all the changes to taxes and things. Yeah, the pond of torturous death. Yeah, let's not go there. Let's not try and remember. The dead pool. Oh, that's a good one, Tamsin. Yeah, my heating bill. I actually normally my gas isn't that much, especially at this time of year. But my electric is massive. So I just looked at my smart meter as I went through to the 3D printers. It resets Sunday at midnight, I think it starts on a Monday. £45 for the week, and that is all really 3D printers going. Having 4 3D printers running all the time really puts your bills up. If anyone does want 18% grey, David Orff says the easiest way is to take a grey card to one of the paint match places. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, I repainted my hall, stairs and landing in the same colour. It's Hay by Farrow and Ball, but this time I just colour matched it with it. I actually used to have Farrow and Ball the first time, but this time I colour matched it when I found the price of Farrow and Ball and how much it's gone up. And I do love the colour. It's a beautiful colour. Sometimes it's quite warm, sometimes it's dark, it's sludgy, it's light. Different light has such an effect on it. It's a beautiful colour. But anyway, I colour matched it this time, and it was much, much cheaper. So that's still going. I can't believe. I thought I'd sped this up to like 4 times, but obviously I've sped it up to like twice. But yeah, yes. My electric bill is a lot. It's embarrassing. It'll be better now, actually, because I'm just about at the end of the test prints. One of the problems was I always do massive Kickstarters, but the problem this time was that I printed the base tiles, and each base tile, because it's lava and stuff printed at 0.16, takes about 14 hours. If you think I've got 6x3 plus another 3x1 at the ends, so I've actually got 7x3, that's like 21, I know that's not cold for Americans, but anyway, I've got 21 square foot of 3D printed tiles that are all quite thick, and it just took a long time to print them all, and they're all printed in clear too. Yep, 5 degrees in the house. That's in my front hall. I mean, to be fair, the front door is open a lot. They would shut it when they could, but when they're running in and out, the front door is just wide open. And the thermostat kicks off then. They were originally going to do loads of different plumbing, which is why this is had there. But let's go back to talking about workshops rather than about building works, which is actually one of the necessary parts to a workshop. And what I notice is, because a lot of sort of people who do hobbies are very handy, they will quite frequently build their own stuff, especially in America, where I feel that some of the rules are more lax. I had 5, I think, building inspection visits, and I would not want to not be a builder for this kind of extension. They rely on you, and I think you get more visits if it's not. And this is just building regs, because it's a permitted development. I didn't have planning permission because it's actually just a permitted development on this house, because it's a loft extension and it's not 10% more than, whatever. You can have 50 square metres without having to go to planning permission. But it still costs you 500 quid to get the building regs out. And, they come and check and look at it a few times. I wouldn't want to even try this on my own. I now match my neighbours, which might be because I spent a lot of time talking to that builder about what to do with mine. And I couldn't have done this. But if I was happy to live in a 38-degree room in an average British summer and put in some Velux windows, I might have been able to get away with a cheaper extension. But the trouble in the UK is, if you want to do a loft extension, you need to have a fixed staircase. It's just a requirement, or at least it was when I did my first room. So because you want a fixed staircase, you have to have sort of an extra proper staircase somewhere. And that all starts to make it a proper extension rather than I can just do this outside, or I can tack it on the back or whatever. So it becomes a lot harder than perhaps it would be in some other countries, especially for people who have basements where you're used to, I can just go and do some work in the basement or something. It's not like that in the UK. But we're finally starting to see the room coming together. And at this point, you can see there's a lot of electric sockets. And the Velux is over on the left-hand side of the slopey wall. It's on the side deliberately, so it's not behind me for when I'm filming. There's a bathroom, which, as I said, is a godsend when my boiler, that's £3,000 coming, when my boiler stops working. It's the heat exchanger's gone, so it puts out 70-degree water or none. But anyway, it's over to the left, so the slopey bit is behind me as a blank backdrop for YouTube videoing, that kind of thing. Now, if I wasn't doing this as a video studio as well as a workshop, I would probably have put maybe 3 Velexes on there for the light. But one thing I did do is on the outside of that Velex, I looked at the Velex website and it says you can do, that's the mock-up of what it's going to look like when I went to the kitchen people. But what happens when you have the Velex, looks very nice, doesn't it? No clock. When you go to the building, Velex website, and everyone recommends Velex and they've been brilliant. You can have the blackout blinds, which I've got, but there's another thing you can have, which is an exterior metal shutter. So I've actually got an exterior metal shutter on it, which is much more heat resistant and cold resistant. It does more of a protection because that room is west facing. That wall is roof even is west facing, so it gets the afternoon sun. So it's probably the hottest. I know it's the south that it's the hottest, but it's the hottest at the end of the day. I did not build a safe room in case of a zombie apocalypse, Norm. I did not. I'm one of these people, when I see what happens after the zombie apocalypse, I'd rather just die and become the zombie. I don't want to be a survivor. It looks an awful world. Everything's awful. Nobody's nice. Everybody wants to eat you, zombie-wise. Everybody who isn't a zombie wants to kill you and take your stuff. It's just mean. I'd rather be dead. I really would. I'd rather be the fungus or the zombie or whatever. Andy's off to spend some time with his beautiful wife. Night, Andy. Thank you for stopping by. Statings, I will say good night, Andy. SJ Trainweld, are you going to build a new layout, Kathy? Ooh, that's a good question. Probably not, because I'm too busy at the moment. I just did Port de Norwich, and one of the problems at the moment is because I'm doing Kickstarters that are, and I've talked a lot about why I didn't do Model Railway as a choice for Kickstarters, new staircase. And there's a lot of reasons behind it, but I love the freedom that doing sci-fi gives me. So I'm doing this Kickstarter and it just takes all my time. It's all my modelling energy, all my modelling time. And I don't have the space. I had to make a hard decision on what I had space for. And I don't have space for a model railway anywhere. And that's why I got rid of Port de Norwich. I don't have anywhere to put one at the moment. And here the boxes for the kitchen have arrived. So probably not at the moment. I did get rid of almost all my railway stuff as well. And I've got rid of so much other stuff. Space. I have so much. I have too much. So this is the units going in. Wow. They make a difference. So GR Railway says, so what's my profession? Well, I do Kickstarters, modelling for terrain for a living. So Kickstarters are crowdfunding and I sell 3D prints. The short answer is I sell 3D prints for a living. The designs for them, not the actual physical prints, and I do them through a Kickstarter. I've got My Mini Factory shop, which has sold all of like $18 on it so far because it's mostly campaigns. Look at those are my the stuff going over the top is the light brackets. Look how many plugs there are. It's a beautiful amount of plugs. So many plugs. Yay. Very excited to have that many plugs. I had daisy chains of extensions and stuff previously. I could have 10 things plugged in the kitchen. And this is very exciting. We'll talk about that in a bit. But it's very exciting. But no, this is what I do. I did content creation for a while, but I've got to say, content creation didn't make enough money. It really didn't. I struggled with it, made a huge loss in the company. I had a company anyway from my previous job and just thought, I need to do something that makes some money. And model railways, I couldn't see where I wanted to be in the niche, but I could see somewhere in the sci-fi world. So I do sci-fi terrain now for a living. And because it's modelling and it's adjacent to modelling and it's very, it is just modelling. Those are my pull things for the lights and stuff. And there are the LED lights going in. Because it's that, I just don't have the time to do any other modelling other than it really at the moment. It just absorbs absorbs all my time. I literally, you know, I'm either playing Starfield or I'm working, is literally where I am at the moment, and I'm doing a lot more work than Starfield. I've got 2 weeks on my next Kickstarter. I'm feeling a bit panicked about it. Just, I've got to get all the modelling done, all the painting. Tamsin, I'm with you on that being about rather being a zombie during the zombie apocalypse. Yep, definitely rather be a zombie. Oh, he got very, very dusty. So this is my Master Chief getting his little wash down after all that dust. Bless him. He was in the bathroom. So there we go. So, given the aspect of your house, have you thought about solar array on the gable end? A small array and batteries could have a significant impact on reducing your electrical daily consumption. No, they won't fit. It's best not to be on a vertical wall, and my neighbour's house shades for most of the day. So actually, I looked at it, but not really suitable at all. If I had southerly on the front or the back, it would be different. But I'm actually one of the really, really difficult ones. Yeah. SJ Trainwell, garden railway then. But yeah, no, I wanted it, Samuel, but I didn't. It didn't pan out. SJ Trainwell, garden railway. I just don't have time to. I'm wary of taking on too much modelling again. One of my problems is having too many projects on the go. So at the moment, I'm not taking any projects on that aren't within the sort of work that I've got to get done. So, Kathy's a pro modeler technically. Technically. So, we are now on to new video. That's the building work done. Woohoo! So, this is the workshop. So, as you come up my beautiful new stairs, which are carpeted finally, there is my favourite video game, Titanfall 2. That's BT and Jack Cooper. And of course, this is the way to the modelling. There we go. I find it picks up a lot of bits. And the other thing I have in here, so it's got halogen lights, LED equivalent in the ceiling, and none over where I've had my modelling actually. And that's a ruggable rug on the floor. Well, I'm sure you'll see more of it in a minute. And also on these, the right hand one broke and then fixed itself, but I'm going to get the electrician to replace it. I have all of these LED lights which I can change the colour on. And because that end one broke, I turned it off on the remote. It just wouldn't click properly, but I can turn it on and off with the remote, and then I can change the colour, which is really cool. And it gives a nice ambiance. One of the reasons I wanted white was so I could do the ambiance. The only thing is, I use it on that back wall a lot when I'm doing photos, but I wish I had it on the wall behind me where I'm videoing, pointing up. So I'm wondering about putting a strip of LEDs there pointing up, but I haven't quite decided whether I want to do that or not. But yeah, Velux with the blind down to keep the sun out at the moment, and the light, because otherwise it casts slightly when I'm videoing, but not a huge amount. And this is it. We've got the photo equipment, the workbench. There's a huge space in the middle, but I'm about to pull out the table once I've got this video done. About to pull out that table and put on a 6x3 or 7x3 board. We've got the bathroom, which, if nothing else, I would encourage you to always put a sink in your work area. There's no way I could trog up and downstairs without a sink here. And it's really useful. And even the little cupboard is useful. I've got my ultrasonic cleaner in there and loads of kitchen roll and towels. Yeah, there we go. There we go, and the useful shower, which is electric. They basically tell you not to put a second one on your main one. So there we go. That's a fold-out table in white from IKEA. It's got leaves both sides, and I can pull it out and hopefully get my whole stuff on it. Sliders on the floor. It sometimes sits on the desk, but the desk, as you see, even with this video, is full of stuff. I've got Henry Hoover. And then I've got, these are my sort of, I sprayed this white, it was graphite before. So this is, that's why my bins are white. These are just some 3D prints that I've printed that don't have a home anywhere else. They're mostly the last Kickstarter. That is inside, so I've got 2 chairs there for visitors, and my tripod lives in there as well. These are just piles of stuff I'm currently working on. That's Vader's castle and the bases. Some bits. Now this pile of shame in the corner is the stuff that won't fit in a cupboard Well, it's a pain. Even now, I've got stuff that won't fit, even with all this. But I'm going to go through every cupboard and explain what goes in my perfect workshop. So, you know, there we go. In the meanwhile, this is almost an entire Kickstarter's, not quite, but almost an entire Kickstarter's worth of models. And I've got, all of my plugs are at the top, but they're on switches down here, so I can turn my lights on without having to go up top to turn them on, or turn them on the actual light. So that puts quite a lot of light. There's 2 cameras hanging off the top, which is a pain because they wobble. I'll show you that in a minute. And 3 lights. These are rotor lights, which are very expensive. I bought them on a deal. I wouldn't probably buy that expensive again. And the ones in the ceiling are just newer LED panels on beauty boxes and gridded, so they point down. When I'm doing things, I can technically take stuff on and off. That's the base for Vader's castle. So I'm just going to pause this for a sec. Oops. Because we're going to go through all the drawers, but I'll just look at chat quickly first. So, happy memories of building staircases professionally. Think of someone who annoys you and take it out on the wedges. It's starting to look like the photo. Yay. It is, isn't it, Norm? It does look good. It's a great new space. The white was a correct choice. Very light and airy. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Mark, looks like I'm watching Grand Designs. Feels a bit like it, doesn't it? I don't know if you have Grand Designs in the US, but it's Kevin MacLeod, always watching things go wrong, and he always finds something great about it at the end. So you can do commission pieces. I don't have time. I really don't. I would do maybe 3D print design, but certainly not actual pieces at the moment. I'm actually finding the design time takes most of my time. Tamsin, the white definitely works. Thank you, Tamsin. I am Denard, but I'm really pleased I went there. I had a debate about white on the floor, and I wanted it, but I couldn't get it, so I went oak in the end. The lighting rig is great. Thanks, Norm. Mark, at the moment I seem to have taken on too many projects, which is taking up a lot of my time. Pretty jealous on your workshop. Yeah, well, I'm still paying it off. And I take on too many projects. That's why I'm quite mean at the moment. Everyone's saying, wow, fantastic workshop. Thanks, SJ, Simon. GR, and an author. Yes, I do write. I have a book, Building Realistic Model Railroad Scenery. And for commissions, you need to ask Kathy. I don't at the moment, just time thing. Samuel, no, just showing off. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm in love. I have worked on my kitchen worktop now, professionally though, for 4 or 5 years, so it is nice. Yeah, I actually do go downstairs to go to the loo. Probably too much information. I've always tried to go to a different floor to go to the loo so that I move and get the exercise. So I always go upstairs or downstairs. I never go to the loo on the same level. Just, there we go. John, the floor is lava. No, it really isn't. It will be soon though. It's funny. I mean, it could be ice. I can make it blue. I can make it pink. Goodness knows what that would be. Fluorescent neon gas leak. Pile of shame, lol. That's not the real pile of shame. Tom says, yep, thank you. Oh, and Shalila Lay. Is it Shilele? Shilele. Thank you so much. Thank you. I do actually still need to pay it off. Thank you. And there's a little thing saying celebrate. I click it and nothing happens, but there we go. Tim, it's an open space. One day I may have a smaller version if I'm lucky. It's about 16 foot square. And yeah, it's really much bigger than I thought it was going to be. But yeah. Neil, have a great early train, and don't worry, there's more to come about whatever goes into my perfect workshop. So yeah, Foxy Nightmares indeed. Shilele. Thank you. Shilele. I'm awful on names. I think it's because I'm short-sighted. Shilele. Okay, we'll just go with that. 449, John. That's easier. So I'm just going to go through quickly. I'm going to let this play now on what I've got in each of my little drawers. These haven't been changed from when I brought them up from the kitchen, and you'll see there's some blanks in there. The ones I use the most, this drawer, it's got my little mini pliers in, which I love. And, you know, there's some spare stuff in there. But everything that I use all the time is either within reach on this side, and it's a bit further away now than in the kitchen. That's batteries, if you're wondering, like test batteries. You know, but it's all a bit further away, but the kitchen roll's close. And it's just mostly the trolleys that I use all the time, apart from one or two things. I never use these pots. You can see the dust on them. I did dust them, but it's redusted. And for me, I have everything within reach. I know where it is. It's almost muscle memory to go to some of the stuff. And it's important that when you've got a workshop, everything that you want is within reach. Now, it is actually a bit far. It's a bit of a reach. And I find I've put stuff in front a lot. And I was hoping with a bigger one that actually I wouldn't put as much in front. But no, I still put loads of stuff in front. But these drawers over here I use quite a bit, my nippers and things like that. The next drawer up is my electric pen tool from Despy, which I absolutely adore. It's really good. It's like a little mini Dremel, but it's battery. So really good. And I've got loads of drawers that normally, they're actually all out in bits at the moment, that normally have those on. They're like little spikes with clips for painting small parts. 73, enjoying the show workshop. Show your appreciation by bashing the like button, says Timber. Ahsoka, yes, Bill. Yeah, I'm watching the series. Ahsoka, I would say, is probably my favourite Star Wars character, though I wish she was actually slightly different in the show. Let's just go any further than that. That's normally full, but I've been using them so they're out. And that's the Posh masking tape for proper stuff. I use those brushes, but a lot of the ones I use are just on the side, and I need to sort through the pile on my side and put them back in there. And I do use the Tamiya Extra Thin the most, and that's my favourite MIG wash. It's a neutral wash, that's up there. That is the camera setup. So I have it down on a monitor. I'm probably going to get a monitor for the other one as well. But you can see how much they wobble. Now, when I did this setup, I didn't consider that it was for lighting and not cameras. And it's really good. It goes up and down, it slides back and forth. And I've got my monitor set up on focus stacking. Not focus stacking, but focusing. So it outlines in red when it's sharply focused. And that means I can tell my focus really well. Extender, because BT Smart Hub 2 sucks. And a Vortex mixer for paint. So I've got, as I said, everything that I want in trolleys. And my first trolley on the left used to be old tools, but now I've put my painting things in there. I've got mostly the brushes I use all the time there and some spare ones. And I mean, the brush I use most at the moment is the little thin one for painting, or a really crappy one for doing weathering. I've been using those sponges as well quite a bit. I've started to put these really useful, I've got so many of them left because all my stock was in them, sort of over some other stuff underneath. And there's some useful stuff in there. I haven't really filled this side trolley. I only started to put stuff in there just before this video. So it's still a bit empty, which is good. But I've got my protective equipment, masks and gloves and hot glue stick spares out there. So this trolley is probably, it's the top bit of every trolley that I use the most. And, oops, let me just see if there's anything in chat. That's a better studio than the BBC. I wish. Look, all those, but Rembrandt and Michelangelo would be envious. I think they would be. But yeah, a lot of them are just really tatty because I go through brushes and I need to throw them out, but I haven't. So this is the trolley I use the most. It's got some paints I've been using, which are upside down. I have cocktail sticks, easily accessible, micro brushes, easily accessible, hot glue gun sticks, because when you want those, you want them. Some new paints I just bought and ones I've been using, 3x2 blocks, my engineering squares, a cloth and my super glue and other glues. And those are just it. And then the next layer down is just bottles and a kitchen knife for foam, nothing else. You know, hex keys, stuff like that. And then this is really the only thing I use in this, apart from the Northwest short line chopper, is the dustpan and brush, which is very useful. So it's a very hot glue gun. That's a wireless one. My favourite panel line bottles, they're Tamiya, they're brilliant. Super glue activator and sanding stuff. Now, I had the ones I use the most out on the top. In my last setup, the whole top drawer was just sanding, and above it, I had the rulers, but I've ended up having fewer shelves, but they're more open. So I've just got all the sanding stuff out now. And then hot glue guns and battery chargers and stuff like that in there. And the hairdryer, which is used a lot. And of course, a Henry Hoover. Henry Hoovers are probably one of the most important things you could possibly have. I hoover things all the time. Based on your previous comment, I've just popped my cherry and bought my first printer, Saturn 28K, nice. Really enjoy watching everything you do. Thanks for all the continued enthusiasm. Thanks, Samuel, that means a lot. Thank you. I have everything Kathy has except the Nivea. Lip Seal, you should have that. I rarely remember to put it on, but it's very good for you. They're actually 1, 2, 3 blocks. So cool because they're typically 1, 2, 3. Yay. Yeah. Your organisation is next level. I spend almost as much time hunting things down as I do modelling. So this has been working from the kitchen and has been brought up from the kitchen almost as it was. So for this, everything's just stayed where it was. It's been really, really helpful to just understand that and bring them up. So it's been I didn't want to displace it too much. But like the hairdryer was on the other side because my tools were on my left. So I've swapped some things around. But the trolleys are so useful because I can then get at cupboards behind. Talking of cupboards, this is my turntable. I leave it out now so I can take a quick photo if I need to. I can use the white backdrop as white, or room hoover, or I can, put colour on. These two just don't have a home at the moment. They're too big to fit on any of my display spaces, so they're just sat up here for now. Not sure what to do with them. One isn't finished though, yeah. So this is my cupboards. This is my sewing cupboard, which is an overlocker and a Viking sewing machine, which I've had for donkey's years. The overlocker's mum's, and it's more for cosplay. I've got a Titanfall cosplay that you'll probably see in the next video. I've now got it on a mannequin because I bought a mannequin. This is my photography one. So there's fog, there's a fog machine, there's little tripods, there's a box of bits and bobs and tripod attachments. And on the other side, there's all the sort of displays. I was hoping to use some of those domes for things and a lot of picture frames. We talked about picture frames. They are brilliant as diorama bases. And the one thing I didn't mention, I've got a lot of coloured cellophane at the moment because I'm using it over the lava. But coloured cellophane is another good way, as well as LEDs, of colouring your light. But what I'm finding is it looks good in person. It doesn't look as good on a photo. So I need to work on that. DROI says it must be nice to start having your house back. It is, but I'm still now, to tidy this out, I moved a lot of boxes downstairs. Just empty boxes, mostly. Just empty boxes of boxes. And as a result, my bedroom is now full of empty boxes. Yeah, okay. It is, yeah. ProLight says, I wish I had anywhere near that space. It is a great workplace now. Awesome. I really feel blessed with it. It's been a long time getting there. This is my tools. Proxon foam cutter, coffee grinder, blender. It's important to have these things. And then all of my scenery stuff is in boxes spread out through all of these. This one looks like the grass one, but it might be the vegetation as opposed to grass, so it's got like grass clumps and stuff. I think on the other side there's boxes in between which are all labelled. On the other side there's like the grass flock itself, the little static grass. We've got vegetation and straws and gosh, all sorts of stuff in there. A lot of like Lego-y type vehicle building pieces which can be useful when you're modelling, moulding, all sorts of things. And then my Brother Scan and Cut rather than a cry cut, and then or a Cricut. My proper tools, these are my DIY tools. Some of them are downstairs if they're too big to fit here, and I managed to get rid of all my saws somehow, but this is most of my DIY stuff. And then now this is my fun bit. I wanted to do an extractor, but obviously you've got the lights in the ceiling, so I have a desktop extractor. You can buy these for kitchens. White is quite hard to get. It comes out of the desk. It rises up when you need it. and you can have it on various different strengths and with and without lights on. It's absolutely brilliant, and it has quite a good suck, and it vents externally. They ran it proper channeled, they sealed it all properly, and they were really worried about it leaking. So they put in loads of extra stuff to get it out, and it comes out the front of the house, which isn't where my bedroom is, so that means it's not venting into my bedroom or anything. So really cool, and I think it's really, really important to kind of have good ventilation. So although I've got windows, they just don't take solder fumes. Even super glue activator can be quite vicious when you spray around. It's there. I don't put it up as much as I should probably. I probably should get in the habit of actually just having it on most of the time I'm working, when I'm doing things that have smell, like super gluing and stuff. But I think I'll get there. David asks, so other than the cameras being too wobbly, is there anything in the new setup that you already want to change? Not particularly, because I'd already had one set up and I planned this based on it. The only thing I would say is I used to have the slider on tripods, and now it's just on the floor. Actually, because I have that extractor fan, great as it is for an extractor fan, it's where I used to put the cameras, and I had one that went on a wheelie thing that just ran on your desk, but now that makes it uneven. And although I've got mats down, it's still proud of the mats, so it can't run over them. So it then ends up coming forward a bit to avoid that extractor fan, and then it's too close. So it's actually, that extractor fan is a pain. I thought it was going to be flush, but it's proud. But yeah. So these are some kind of dry food storage thing, which I bought ages ago. And they look really cool. And you can see they're mostly, this is like round the far side by the rug, and the extractor fan's in the middle. And they're all just grout, sculpt mould, sand, plaster, soil, dead leaves, things like that. That's what they are. There's a lot of different colours of grout in there. And then all the plasters down the side. This is now behind the trolleys normally. Vermiculite's useful for padding stuff out. Chinchilla dust, polyfiller, that's in bags, and white grout. This is the actual back of the extractor fan. So I've lost a big cupboard for it as well, which is another bad thing. I've got the oil paints in there because they're an odd shape, and I've got all the spare fittings. So if I hadn't had the extractor fan, I would have needed to extract somehow. But it would have been in the ceiling where the lights are, and I couldn't work it out. So we've got meters, a sanding mouse, my putties and clays ended up in here, my Dremel and my soldering. So they're more tools. And again, behind a trolley, but that trolley that's there gets moved quite a bit. And then I've got supplies. The next sort of few cupboards are supplies, paints and clays and just all the usual stuff that you use. Some foam clays and wooden stirrer sticks. I got those for Christmas off my mum one year. Tell I'm a modeler, can't you? Those are kind of just, extra foam. You buy them, I put them in the drawers, but there's always some spare. And I do use coffee stirrers, masking tape. I use it a lot for sticking stuff down for painting outside. Foil and king film, all the usual stuff that are just supplies you need. Loads of used plastic containers. Sci-fi bits boxes, just bits. Jute string, I love that. I think that's clump foliage in that one, sort of all my foliages and the bottles, wooden scenic bottles of foliage and things. I need to probably label them because already I'm forgetting what's in them. So it'll take me a while to go and find them. It's just a whole box of plastic cups. Very sad. And then another, I love these magic corners. They're different to my other magic corners, but these are all my bottles of solvents and glues and oils and acetone and washes and more glues and more stuff, and I end up buying more because I forget that I've got it here. Oh look, there we are, there's a glue. I should have used that. So I need to use some of these up, I think, is a short answer. Mod Podges and compounds and WD-40. So So Bill had a blender for ages and then added a manual mince and meat grinder for making flame from car sponges. I'm thinking that I probably need that, which I bought, but I haven't actually used it yet because I haven't made any since. But the blender didn't get it fine enough. So these are all like ballasts, and that's my rock box, rock moulds and things. and stuff like that. I mean, literally I've got a box of rock moulds. And then there's other boxes in between. I've got some like bits of, those are like made up diorama vegetation. These are the trees that came off my layout. That's snow and ice, that box. It's so heavy it won't slide out. And on the other side is ash and like stuff that's really, really heavy that again won't slide out. And loads of little bits of vegetation. The inks ended up in this cupboard because they couldn't fit them anywhere else because they're tall. And these all came off the old layout as well. So they're all just bits of sea foam. Yeah, that's bits of ash from gardens, clinker, you know, just all filling stuff out. So that is my base cupboards done. So we've just done a tour of all the base cupboards. Let's have a look. The extractor is very sci-fi. It is, isn't it? And Tamden thinks it's cool. Norm thinks it's cool. How much would you say you spend? I'm not going to say it online. And most of it's in the expansion. But putting in kitchen cabinets, not cheap. The extractor was only like £200. It was one of the cheapest things. Probably getting it fitted, probably about the same price. Jamie Westy says 30% of our hobby is tub management. Isn't it just? And then I'm like, I was trying to mend something that got battered to give it to somebody. It was the diorama, the Tatooine one. I'm like, I've seen the paint for that on the side somewhere. And I was looking around the kitchen, and eventually I found it at the back of the kitchen. I'd still got the tub of the paint that I'd used, exactly the same colour, so I could do the touch-up. I was like, good thing I keep my paints, which is actually what this cupboard's got. Yeah, but so many tubs. Bye, SJ Train World. Thanks for the tour. Great live. Take care, everyone. Yep, stay safe. Norm says, now you'll need is one of those food and drink processors like in Star Trek. Tea, Earl Grey. Or for me, tea, Pearl Jasmine. Hot. And then, right, everyone, you have too much WD-40. Where is my fire extinguisher? It's actually in the 3D print room, which is downstairs, Norm. That is a good question. I probably should get one for upstairs. Thanks for mentioning that. Shailila, I'm going to have to let me go up. You said it around here. I know you said it again. Oh, I really need to get better at your name. Layla. I'm sure that's what it is. Layla. Anyway, yeah, great. So back to the cupboard. So we're now on the cupboard to the left up top. So it's the wall cabinet. It's got all my lava fluoro. Layla. I'll get it right eventually. And paints, acrylic paints. And then we come down to the sort of mostly clips and things there. So that was one side. And then on the other side, we've got things like decals, tissue and net, sponges, foams. This is very hard to get into, so it's the cupboard that stuff I don't use as much. Mostly because it's just in the middle of the worktop. Batteries and magnets I use a lot, they're quite easy. Sanding bits and bobs, Gundam details and Gundam kit instructions, just Gundam parts that's sort of there, less used. And then I've got a cupboard full of paint, but obviously the acrylic paint, the oil paints, the inks, they didn't all make it into the cupboard. So this is just the acrylic bottle, small bottle paints that I have. Loads of Tamiya. I used to spray with Tamiya. I now spray with Mr. Hobby, so generally not as much, but you know, I'm using the speed paints a lot at the moment. And then I've got another cupboard. These are 2 doors on each of sort of like LED stuff, tea lights, fairy lights, induction, miniature LEDs, and then I've got a whole side of Arduinos and servos and motors and components, some of which are like pulled off 3D printers, some are just like, you know, just plug lighting. And the final one, I've got screws, soldering stuff, which is just leftover spare soldering, and then some electrical stuff and a few other things piled in. So I've really run out of space to put anything new, and you see there's no boxes in there. All the wiring's up high, so you don't notice how messy it is. That's a really important thing. It is actually cable tied and it's got runs, but I find it sags out after a while. So I need to sort some of those runs. They're made for thicker wire. And they slide back and forth. And then the actual things that they're on slide on the runners. So you can slide something in any direction, not just back and forth that way, but that actual thing will go back and forth and then they'll go up and down. So there's a lot of way you can move them around if you need to. But I've still got this pile in the corner here of things that are just too big to go in kitchen cabinets. I mean, I was going to decant these somehow, and in the end I was like, I can't be bothered. They're actually on a warped mat, so they don't mark my floor. And that's all my DIY little bits and bobs. The card I use every day for spray painting at the moment, and things like my mats, my battle mats and vinyl cutters, things that are just too big, and perspex, just too big to fit in a cupboard. And I've still got some stuff that's too big. So that was my tour of the cupboard. Haha! So I've still got boxes downstairs that won't quite fit that. I have a lot of boxes with a throw over them. It's getting quite depressing, if I'm honest, about, you know, how much I've still got to sort and get through. But there, I'm going to keep saying she Laylee. Yeah, there we go. So Jammy Westy says, cracking setup though, mate. I'm going to invest in a laser cutter to make custom really useful box and DeWalt T-stack inserts next year. That would be great. I mean, I have hundreds of really useful boxes and they are so useful. In the UK, you order your drinks, says Raymondson, at the Nutriomatic drink synthesizer, the machine that produces a drink that is not so far away from tea but still isn't tea. Yeah. GRLA says, where's a good hobby store near Cov? I don't know, to be honest. There is one in Coventry I've been into. I can't think what it's called though. It'll come to me in a minute. Antics, I think it is, or something, in Coventry, actually in the centre. But whether it's still there or not, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot in South Brum. There's some further out, but yeah. Sheila Lee, whoa, rolls off the tongue now. Halon extinguisher. Really? Isn't that the thing they used in Terminator when they all nearly died? Don't. I'm not reading it, Bill. Bill's trying to get me to pronounce it differently. No. YouTube, Holy Hollywood Studio, Kathy. That's quite the setup. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and yeah, I think it's if you're going to do it full time and you're going to be at home, it's something I've been wanting for a while. And obviously, someone else moving into the house, it'd make a lovely master bedroom suite or something, and they could easily, convert. So, Sheila Lee, got to go back to my old name. This for my new channel where I talk about other hobbies. Yeah, stating the obvious. Not Halon domestic property. It binds the oxygen and will suffocate you. That's what I thought happened in Terminator 2. Yeah. Timber says lovely. Thank you, Timber. Tamsin, if I change my screen name to add Sheila Lee, would that mean I've joined the club? Sheila Lee. Yeah. Okay. Isn't Sheila Lee an Irish club? Or Sheila Lee for Brian. Halon extinguishers are no longer legal. Is that true? I don't know. I've got a, not actually in the room, but I never shut the door. There's a smoke detector on the landing, which is wired to the electrics because that's a legal requirement. But yeah. So Jamie says, I'm Dudley Way, but heard good things about Mike's models up North Brum. Yeah, I can think of a few, but not in South. Norm, that was a wonderful video of the remodel and the way it is now. Wonderful space. Thanks, Norm. The only model shop I know of that's close to South Brum is Tennant's Trains. I believe there's also a place in Sutton Coldfield. Yeah, there is, and I can't remember its name either. It's been like 20 years since I went there. Timber's still crying about them ripping up the layout. Sorry, Timber. Warren, first time I've caught a stream live, happy about that. The setup looks great. I dream of a dedicated space at the moment. My 3 resin and 2 FDM printers are in my game room, slowly changing to a hobby room. I actually wouldn't print in the same. I was getting a lot of headaches and I blamed the resin. I think it does set me off a bit. I don't know. I just had a lot of headaches for about 3 years. And in that time, I've now given up red wine. In fact, I've given up all alcohol and that more or less stopped the headaches. So obviously something wasn't sitting with me with the red wine probably. But yeah, no, don't drink. But I don't have as many headaches, which is good. Is there going to be any more TV appearances in the future? Not that I'm aware of, I'm afraid. No, not that I'm aware of. And I have no idea what She Laylee is saying yes to. Hopefully the practicing it right. But another clever walking stick. Yeah, not quite following that. But anyway. So, what would you put in your perfect workshop? I mean, I've talked about mine. I've talked about splitting the smelly stuff out. And one of the biggest problems for me is storage. I buy too much stuff. I'm really struggling with acquisitive nature. I see something, I see a great project that somebody else has done, and I love that project, so I buy the kit they've used for it or something, so I can do the project. But actually what I should do is learn to appreciate their project without then feeling that I have to do it myself to appreciate it. It's a difficult one because, you know, I've got a lot of Gundam kits and I really want to do them. It's just time. Same with the model railway. It's just time. I literally don't have time to do anything at the moment. So I'm working on the Kickstarter and I was hoping that I would be better this time and do the modelling as I went through the summer, and put the videos out. But what I found was I was so busy designing and test printing that I didn't have one complete project finished because, I want to do this one. I need to just do this. It's number 58 on the print queue. And I've got 4 printers and they're all on. I started putting numbers on the print queue about a month ago, and they're all on about just getting up to 50 now on each printer. So, you know, the items. So it's yeah, I need to work on my work-life balance a bit better as well. Though Starfield helps with that at the weekend. I try not to play it in the week though. So David Orff says, from 31st of December to 2002, it was illegal to recharge a Halon fixed fire extinguishing system, and all Halon systems and fire extinguishers were to be decommissioned by 31st of December 2003. There we go. We all now know. You ever use Sunlu ABS like Rebin? What's your thoughts? I haven't used it, I'm afraid. I've heard good things about it. I need to change because currently I use Anycubic Clear and it's really brittle, and I dropped a plate of minis. I think I put it on Instagram, Facebook, and they basically all came off the base and 2 of them broke legs. Norm says it's the high sugar content in red wine that gives you the headaches. I do have a very high sugar content anyway in my life. Jamie says, having a separate area for smelly solvents and dangerous dust is super important. Definitely my first edition where the hobby and woodworking. I really would encourage that sentiment, that you have a separate room for your 3D printers. And if you can't, a lot of people are putting them in grow tents so that they're kind of getting them out of the normal atmosphere and then venting those grow tents externally. I actually find my Elegoo doesn't put out a lot of smell with the Anycubic in. But if I put on my Peopoly Phenom, A, it sounds like a jet engine. B, it stinks because it puts out so much fan because it's so big. It puts a huge amount of fan out, and so it blows a lot more around the room. But I have them in a little room. I can't shut the door at the moment because with 4 FDM going, even on a cold day it was getting to 27 in there, and my press was starting to get heat creep on clear filament. Not on the others, but I don't really want it much warmer than 27. So the door is generally open at the moment, but when I'm doing resin, I do shut the door a bit, or shut the next door actually and put the extractor fan on. So, She Laylee, I thought my white extensions were Halon, they used to be, but they're just labelled kitchen grease and electrical now. Oh wow. There is a Hobbycraft in Coventry by the station, I believe. Near to Coventry train station, it says. Yeah, I've been there. But it's Arts and Crafts Superstore retail chain. I've been there, I buy stuff there. It doesn't have as much model stuff as it used to. They're okay. I still go in. I still spend way too much money whenever I go in. So Jamie, going to run away soon, have a week in a caravan somewhere and do nothing but eat chips and build an old perfect grade RX 782. I have a perfect grade to build and I have not had a chance yet. And I'm hoping when this Kickstarter's done, because apparently you can't do Kickstarters in November, December, January, February, because Thanksgiving runs into Christmas, runs into I have no money for Americans, especially because Brits don't care about Thanksgiving. You basically shouldn't be doing, but Americans are my biggest part of my marketing. You have to not do Kickstarters in that period. So my next Kickstarter won't be till March. So I'm hoping to get a bit more of a work-life balance in that time. Finish Starfield off perhaps, and maybe do some of the projects that I've got on the back burner. Like that diorama I said, oh, this isn't finished yet, you know. Get some of those finished. Wardle Road, evening all. Are you coming or going? Sheila Lee is an Irish club or stick, Kathy. Ah, it's a club or stick, right? I didn't know that. When you said club, I thought like bar club thing. Try Chianti, much less sugar. So I just basically gave up alcohol because I think there was also the sherry and the whiskey in there as well. So let's not go there. But I was drinking too much on a Friday night, and I feel so much better having gone teetotal. And I'm actually at the end of the month, I'm up to a year without any drink, including on my 50th. So I'm not in a rush to go back to drinking. I've quite liked being teetotal, and it's saved me a fortune in cash. So there we go. Hi everybody, you saying hello to Ollie arriving. Tim, my perfect workshop would be to have a workshop. The 3D printers are above my washing machine with lots of small drawers for supplies. Do you find a problem with them, with the washing machine and your 3D printers, or does it not vibrate them? Modelling is a tray on my desk. Layouts go in front of the TV. That's where I've been for a lot of what I've been doing. There we go. Abbeycraft and Nuneaton. It's a bit of a way from Coventry, but you know, not too far. David Orff says I'd like a separate room for laser, 3D printer and airbrush, but the only spare space is the garage, which is not good for delicate electrics. I might build a sealable extractor cupboard for them. Extractor cupboard's a good idea, especially for laser cutters, which automatically have to vent externally, really. And the only thing is, when I've got the 3D printers going and I'm doing the airbrushing, I always shut the door to the 3D printers. I wouldn't want them in the same room because of the particulates you put out of the airbrush are quite high. I kind of wait for them to settle out the air, which doesn't take long, and then I open the door again because the extractor fan's in there. Print along with some tomato plant growing. Yep, definitely. Yeah, grow bags. So Jamie says, oh wow, useful info re Kickstarter timing. We'll be doing one at some point for a tabletop rulebook. To offer that, yeah, just what people tell me. I think if you're desperate and you want the cash, you do it anyway. I'm debating then what I do. I might do a Tribes, which is a My Mini Factory Patreon-like thing. I have a Patreon for my YouTube channel. I don't want to necessarily morph it into something where people start getting 3D prints. I'm debating doing a building a month on Tribes, but I'll talk about it after the Kickstarter and decide what I'm going to do. But there was stuff I designed for the Kickstarter, which then decided it was going to get too big. So I've kicked it into a different something. Just need to decide what. So America goes bang, according to Norm. Okay. David Orff, best bet is a blue dry powder extinguisher, good for everything except deep fat fryers. Not particularly found in a model workshop. No, the stuff that I have up there is actually quite minimal now. That's electrical in many ways. But there are extractor fans, and my neighbour's, the one on the corner that way, her house, she came in and went upstairs, having been out in the garden, and went to the loo, and her extractor fan fell off the wall in a cloud of smoke and flames, and it just set itself alight. So yeah, not great. Polite, if you have a model making job, you hardly get to do your own private projects. At least that's how it was for me. I only had a mini job for 6 years. I think that's the trouble. Although I define my own job, it's all 3D printing, and it's very coarse 3D printing doing FDM. So, and it's big volume because I have to print everything. That's why I have crates of test prints just sat there. So I've printed every piece. And then when I come to do the display, I realise I only have one of everything and I need 4 of something to make a decent base. So you end up printing 3 more of something. So I end up with loads of stuff. Yeah. Norm, alcohol gave up on me. Lol. Yeah. Less alcohol. So Tim, the shelf above the washing machine seems not to pick up the vibrations, but I do try not to do laundry and printing at the same time. I do have an extractor fan in there though that goes through the roof. That's important. I'm going to go, but I'll see you next time. You will indeed. And we'll be talking display spacing and ways to deal with displays and dust and UV light and all that kind of stuff that's really important for displays. Sheila, oh, right, blue powder is a UK thing. Did not think of the difference from across the pond. Okay, I have got the red ones, which I think are dry CO2 stuff. Seeing as you've done bits for Shatterpoint and Legion, has doing Halo ground command ever crossed your mind, as the Halo dies are some of my favourite videos? I would love to do some more Halo ones. Someone showed an Atriox that they'd got or something recently as a toy, and I wasn't sure where they even got it from, but I have a huge, I presume it's Atriox. It is Atriox, I'm sure. I have a huge one about this big, and I wanted to do something with him. I also have another, I'm not sure if I've got another Warthog, but I've got another vroom 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 little one, little 4 quad thing, whatever that's called. Yeah, I've got another one of those, and I've got a Banshee and a few other things as well. So I would like to do some more of them. But the Halo ground command, I know someone who does Halo, and she posts regularly on one of the Discords I'm on. And she's beautiful stuff in Legion scale, more or less. And there's a homebrew, there's a whole Discord channel of stuff where you can get 3D prints, and they look really good. I just don't want to commit to doing that when I've still got a Legion army. I haven't even painted my own Legion army yet. And a sort of Shatterpoint army squads to do. So I probably will do it maybe in a few years, but not right yet. And I might do it when I do a Kickstarter that really looks more Halo than Star Wars or something, and I want to put those minis on. Blue powder or pink is called BCF. But yeah, definitely will, Warren. Jammy, time to turn in. Well, it stops in 10 minutes anyway. Great tour, looking forward to the next vid. Night all. Night, Jammy. David Orff, model making room, lots of flammable materials, all that wood, plastic, sinew materials, solvers, paints, plus electrical. That's very true. That is very true. Yeah. And that's actually one of the problems. I tend to think of the 3D print room being the most flammable because there's all that hot moving parts. But, you know, and now this room doesn't get as hot, I'm not as worried about it. But some of the stuff I was storing, you know, the kits, they would have been up to 38 and then down to 8 in the winter. And you do worry what happens to things with that. My mum has this pink stain in her conservatory on the floor. And she said, I don't know what that is. And we looked at it, and I licked it, and I was like, well, it's kind of sweet, you know, but maybe someone spilled a drink. And there was this like debate. And then she said to me yesterday, I've discovered what that is. She brought some rust remover because she gave her barbecue away to some neighbours up the road. And she put it on the side in the conservatory. She says, the rust remover boils over when it gets hot in the conservatory. And the rust remover had been on the table, obviously, or on the side, and had boiled over out of the bottle it's in, which is black, all over the place. So it's rust remover all over the floor. At least it's not rusty, the floor now. It is wood, though. So people are debating fire extinguishers in chat. You're crazy to think only 3 more live streams and that's another year gone. Please. And I don't know. So the next one's display rooms. I would like to get back to Thunderbirds because actually this Kickstarter will have finished by then. And so I might have time to start building the Thunderbirds. But there was a lot of 3D print design I needed to do for it, and it was just bandwidth doing that 3D print design and this 3D print design. You know, there we go. Bill seems to think dry powder extinguishers in the UK are basically baking soda. I'm not quite sure what they're made of, Bill, but yeah. And then Timbersurf, in the David Orff saying, all UK, so in the UK, all extinguishers are red these days, but the dry powder ones have a big blue stripe with powder written on it. Okay. Wardle Road has a fire extinguisher in his 1:1 scale model loco. I do have one by the 3D printers, and it's just red. I don't know what it is. There'll be an electrical fire, but you know, now I've got rid of the ender, I'm probably less worried, but you do hear, and there's fluff that builds up in them and things. What I'm hoping for is when I've got some downtime, they can all get properly serviced. And actually, when the boiler gets replaced, they're all going to have to get moved out for the boiler to be replaced, and I'm going to have to open up the side door, which is all insulated up and stuff at the moment, because the boiler's in there, and that's in the next week or 2. So that's going to be a fun thing to get done, but it would be nice to have reliable hot water. That at the moment, I was trying to take some supports off in 3D printing, and you know anything about it, you put them in hot water. So I ran it for 20 minutes and it ran lukewarm. And then I ran it and suddenly it was like, the plumber comes, runs it, and it's steaming. It's literally steaming. It's so hot. And he says it's running at 70 degrees. Yeah. So I can't really win with that at the moment. But yeah, timber, Thunderbirds are go. It's Thunderbird 3. I was going to do the hanger next. So baking soda, is that sodium bicarbonate? David Orff says that the fire extinguishers have got sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate in. I learn so much on these chats, and then I probably forget it all. So I'm sorry if I forget, but I will remember. Shillelagh. Ooh, you'll change your name for next time, won't you? You'll be back to 4449 John, and I'll be like, oh, John, that's easy. But yeah. So that was my workshop, and I think I just will sum up in the final 7 minutes with what I've learned. 1, building work is very damaging to dioramas. Most of mine got damaged. So if you can take them off site, that will damage them, but it will create less damage than leaving them on site and them covering them with plastic sheeting, which is what I did, which then ends up with damaging, figures got knocked and trees got broken, and so don't, think very carefully about. And these are actually still dioramas that need to go upstairs to the display space, which we'll talk about next time, because having a deadline for tidying it is really good for me. I am also going to take the last 7 minutes, so I need to quickly sum up on workshops. So I think it's important to put all the tools you want close at hand, and to make sure that you put the easy to reach cupboards with the things that you want the most in them, so that you are not forever trying to move things. Trolleys are invaluable if you've got loads of cupboard space, because you can pull them out and get at the cupboards behind. So I do recommend trolleys a lot. I love my trolleys. I can pull them out when I want to get stuff. I can push them away if I want them out the shop for video. I do love my trolleys. And then finally, white was a great colour for me, but it's really impractical for worktops. Do put loads and loads of cutting mats down. Otherwise you'll just go straight through your worktops. So cutting mats, I'm probably going to go double layer soon, so I stagger the joints, which will be cool. But yeah, and then I must mention my Kickstarter. Probably should have done this at the beginning. I keep mentioning it, but my Kickstarter goes live on the 26th of September. I am in full panic painting mode. I still need to render some stuff up. Sounds like it a lot. It's 2 weeks away, but I've actually got to go away to take my dad back, and I've got my mum's 80th this week, so that'll keep me busy. And I've got loads coming up, so just 2 weeks. I need to paint everything, do the promo video. I mean, practically everything's printed and designed now, apart from one thing, which I do need to do before the promo video, and then paint everything, which is just, it rained today, which was a pain. And then do all the videos, do the diorama videos, do the promo videos, do the wording, get everything put together. I actually don't see everything getting painted for the start of it. So the Transport Delta, which is an add-on, may not get painted in time. But we'll see how it goes in 2 weeks, because you need the promo video to look good. And then I just remember how panicked I was last time trying to get it up. But there we go, 2 weeks. Wow, I feel panicked just saying that. But if you haven't signed up already, go sign up. If you were to look up Corix in Kickstarter, or just look up my name, Kathy Millett Modelling, you'll find it there. I probably should be organised enough to put a link in chat, but I'm not. But yeah, you can go find it, sign up. It's all about lava. It's really exciting, and it's just fun to paint. It's fun to do. I've run out of orange fluorescent paint, so I'm waiting. That's what I couldn't finish today, so I'm waiting. But I'm hoping all in all it's going to be really successful, because this is my second one and I do want this to be my full-time job going forward. So I do need it to be successful, so I need people to go out there and love it. Please do. But yeah. So Ravenson says he once had a fire in the laser machine when he was cutting plexiglass. Oh wow, that sounds bad. And he needs to use the fire extinguisher. Norm says put thick glass on your countertops. I could do, but I think it would get, I don't know. I'm not sure I'd want to use the power tools, and I'm never keen on putting glass under some of the stuff I do, like a hammer stuff on there. I'm not sure about the glass. Anyway, so that would be the only thing I would say. White. Norm, no sleep for you. I'm not sure. It will get done. I'm sure it will. What I need to do is just nail enough to get my boards done, because the boards aren't done yet. The display boards for it. And once the display boards are done, I need to spend a day or two doing the promo videos. I need to work my critical path for that. And then I'll be sorted. That's it. That's the theory. Anyway, right, so thank you everyone for coming. I need to thank Timber and Norm for moderating. I'm going to wave at Digger in case he watches this back, but he had some important stuff to go do. And thank you all for coming. I think the important thing that seems to come out at the end of this conversation is do remember your fire extinguishers. So, public safety announcement, PSA for those who know what they are. If you don't have a fire extinguisher in your room, your modelling room, go get one now. If you don't have one in your 3D print room, go get a smoke detector and go get a fire extinguisher, because they do set themselves off, as do laser cutters if you have one. So stay safe, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't liked, go like it, and I will see you all in a month's time when we're going to be talking about display, how to keep things clean, how to keep things tidy, how to display things for the best advantage. Thanks guys, take care, see you next time.